What is the solution set for the quadratic equation? Well, remember, solution set means I have the brackets. So these answer choices, here it says it only passes through 4, 0. It only touches the graph for this one, negative 4, 0, and 4, 0. For this one, it crosses only at 256. And for this one down here, it crosses at negative 256 and positive 256. And I know you're wondering, why did she put zeros in the y spot? Well, remember, whenever the question is talking about a solution, a zero, an x-intercept, or a root, the y is always going to be 0. So y is 0 for everything that I wrote here, because solution set doesn't give you the ordered pair. It gives you the set of solutions. So where can we say that this graph crosses the x-axis? That's what it means. For the next, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 problems, 7 problems, we're going to look at this phrase, where the graph crosses the x-axis. So this question, even though it says solution set and it says quadratic equation, it means where the graph crosses the x-axis. And so there are a couple ways you can do this quickly. You can go to menu 331 or menu 61 and get those roots. You can also do this by hand. To do it in the calculator, you can go to the calculator screen on the Inspire, and let me zoom in. You hit menu. We're in algebra. We're talking about a polynomial, and we want to find the roots. Yes, we're talking about real roots, and it is degree of 2. And this means A, B, and C. So, A is the number in front of x squared. How do I know? Because ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A is in front of x squared. B is by the x. You notice we don't have an x. B must be 0. And C is negative 16 because C is the one without an x. So 1, 0, negative 16. Press enter 3 times. And there is your solution set. Enter B. You can also go to the graphing screen. I'm going to hit Control Document and go to the graphing and type in x squared minus 16, not negative 16, but x squared minus. Hit enter. And then I'm going to go to menu and down to 6. Analyze graph. And I want a 0. That's why another reason you need to know vocabulary words, because the calculator uses them. So I'm going to click in the middle and drag over to the right and see 4, 0. The y is always 0. And then scroll to the other side and negative 4, 0, which is of course what we wrote. So the answer is B. Moving to the next question. Okay, what are the x-intercepts of the quadratic equation? This question is asking, where does the graph cross the x-axis? And you can use the same 2 methods I just used, and the answer would be F. Now, if you wanted to do it by hand, you could use the box or the x method, and you would put 5x squared here and negative 1 here to use the box method, and we're multiplying to negative 5, and we're trying to add to 4, the middle term. And so the two numbers that will multiply to negative 5 and add to positive 4 would be positive 5 and negative 1. So this would be negative 1x and then 5x. And then you would find the labels for the box, and for the shortcut you just divide by the leading coefficient, which is 5, and this doesn't reduce, so that's 5x minus 1. This does reduce, so it's x plus 1, And then over here, this would be 5x, this would be x. And this is missing minus 1, and then this is missing nothing, so it's just plus 1. And x plus 1, 5x minus 1, same thing. So then take each one of those and set them equal to 0. And there is your x is negative 1. Take your 5x minus 1, add 1 to both sides, then divide by 5, x is 1/5. And so let me slide that over because I just realized you couldn't see any of it, sorry. So I did x plus 1, negative 1 on both sides, x equals negative 1, and then plus 1, then divide by 5. And x equals 1/5. Sorry about that. Okay. The next question. The graph of the quadratic function g is shown below. So based on the graph, between which two values of x is the 0 of g located? So I don't want you to freak out when it says quadratic function g. It's just naming this quadratic function, this parabola is g. So that's his name. He's g of x instead of f of x. No big deal. But it does say 0. So I am only going to focus on the x-axis. So this question again is saying, where does it cross the x-axis? It crosses here and here. So that's 1 point something, that's 4 point something. Or negative 1 point something and 4 point something. So look at your answer choices. Which one describes negative 1 point, let's just say 1.4, or 4 point, I don't know, 2 or 3? Which one describes that? No, it's between negative 1 and negative 2, so no, that's way off. And this one is between 4 and 5. You can also look between 4 and 5. The table of values of quadratic function g is shown below. So this is the next question. So this table of values is function g. That's why it's called g of x. It wants to know if the first solution is at 1. And I know that wording right there is really awkward, but it's not hard. If 1 is a solution to g of x equals 0, that means this. Why does that mean that? Well, this is the solution, so that's the x value, and this is the same thing as y. So y equals 0 and x equals 1. So this is one of the solutions. This is where it crosses the x-axis. So it's asking, what is the other solution? Where else does it cross the x-axis? So if you're looking at the table, it said when g of x is equal to who? 0. So when is y 0? When is g of x equal to 0? Right there. So there is your solution. There is your x-intercept. That's where it crosses the x-axis. 0, 6, that's not the x-intercept. That's the y-intercept. That's not what you want. That g of x equals 6. It says g of x equals 0. So the next question, same exact question. The table of values for the quadratic function f is shown below. It wants to know if the first solution is 3, 0, what's the next solution? Well, we know that f of x needs to equal 0 this time. And when is f of x equals 0? Right there at negative 7, not 5.25. Because f of x has to be 0. So the answer for this one would be negative 7. And I'm imagining that you would probably have to fill out a griddable. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be my 7, and this would be my negative. Okay. 2 more, and then this video will end. Which statement about the quadratic equation below is true? Well, I'm not really sure what the answer choices are talking about until I read them, because I haven't gotten much out of my question other than the word quadratic equation. And I see that it's already set equal to 0, so that means I'm ready to move on. But what am I looking for? Okay, The equation has x equals 4 as a solution, okay? The equation has no real solutions, okay? The equation has x equals 4 and x equals -4 as its only solutions. Oh, I noticed that solution is in every answer, so I'm probably looking for the solutions. Well, what are the solutions to a quadratic equation? Where it crosses the x-axis. Yeah, the sixth question, asking the same thing but using different words. So where does this cross the x-axis? And of course you can use menu 6-1 here on the graphic screen, or you could use menu 3-3-1. And be careful because they're not given B here. So -4.5, 0, and then 72. And there is your solution set, which makes the answer be H. G is not going to be the answer because G means that it doesn't touch the x-axis at all. It has no real solutions like we talked about on the first page. There are a couple of ways you can look at no real solutions. That way. It could be like this. It could be at the bottom. And you know this one is obviously wrong because it just gave us two answers. And infinite solutions, that's talking about systems. So that's not even an answer choice, an option. The last question. The function y equals x squared plus x minus 6 is graphed below. So if you don't read these questions, you could assume that this is the answer because it crosses there and it crosses there. So -3 and 2. And look, there it is. So that must be it. But remember, this graph talks about that equation. And if you read, it changed. So what do? We have to find the solutions for this. That means we have to add 4 to both sides and make it equal 0. And in class, we practiced moving this side over, but we never had anything to combine it with. For instance, if my question was 2x squared minus 7x equals -4, we would do +4. And so he's 0 now, but there was nothing over here to combine him with, so 2x squared minus 7x plus 4, it just sat in the C spot now. But here, he has to be added to something, because his like term is there. He doesn't have an x, he doesn't have an x. That becomes -2. And then when you use menu 3-3-1 or 6-1, you get the answer as -2 and 1. Which is G. So you can use again menu 3-3-1 in the calculator screen. You can use menu 6-1 in the graphing screen. Now you could have also skipped all of that and just took each answer choice, and plugged it into the X spot to see how to, which one would give you -4. And so if I plug in -2, square it, plus, and then put -2, minus 6, it should give me -4. And it did. So then I can take that same problem and then type in a 1 instead of -2. And it should give me -4. And that lets me know it's right. So you have two ways you could do that problem. Well, 3 or 4, because you could even factor it like I did on the other example. That's the end of this video. We will start here on the next video.